Boxing truth here. Let's talk about Joseph Parker, the weakest link in the heavyweight division. One of the imposters in boxing who holds a strap but really shouldn't be holding a strap. He's a WBO king in the heavyweight division, but he's an imposter. Really should be relieved of that strap. Really got a gift decision, major gift decision, against Hughie Fury in Manchester. Fury got the shaft by his own countrymen, and as a result, Joseph Parker's parading around as an actual world champion, especially after that trash performance. Somewhat of a performance. Maybe landed a handful of punches in that whole fight. Somehow got a 118-110 on two judges' scorecards, which gave him the victory as he was able to retain his WBO strap in the heavyweight division. But Joseph Parker, coming out of that performance, they decided to bypass a defense at the end of the year. They were looking to fight some Japanese guy. Perhaps he can bring some money to the table, entice Parker to come to Japan and fight. But they bypassed that voluntary defense. They felt there wasn't enough money on the table. But it doesn't seem that Joseph Parker and his handlers are all that keen in an Anthony Joshua unification, especially not next. Doesn't seem like Joseph Parker wants any smoke with Anthony Joshua. Their team are talking about completely something different, completely something else. The thing is, it's going to be a hard negotiation because Hearn, even though he wants Joseph Parker's strap to add the collection of Joshua's titles, he doesn't necessarily see Joseph Parker as a guy that deserves a gigantic purse. He's not a guy that's really worth all that much. Anthony Joshua is the A-side against everybody in the heavyweight division, even Tyson Fury if they ever fight. But of course, champions need to be respected at the negotiating table. You can't just throw out an offer and expect them to take it. But at the same time, a fighter like Parker has to know his worth against a fighter like Anthony Joshua, who was the cash cow of the division. So Hearn's going to give a respectable offer, one that he feels that he's worth for Joseph Parker, and it's going to be his biggest payday. But it just sounds like Parker's team are not all that interested in a Joshua unification. They're talking about completely different plans. They're talking about having a fight in the first quarter of the new year. They're talking about different opponents. They're actually talking about Lucas Brown. He's another fighter is actually targeting Lucas Brown. I don't know what it is about Lucas Brown. He's a wanted man in the heavyweight division. He's had a target on his back. Other guys have tried to fight him. Klitschko was actually negotiating with him before he settled on the Joshua fight. Dylan White tried to fight him in his most recent outing. So Lucas Brown, for some reason, is a wanted man. I don't know exactly what he brings to the table, but a lot of heavyweights want that work with him for some strange reason. Maybe he brings some money to the table. I don't know. Maybe y'all guys can tell me. Maybe he's easy work and a lucrative payday. Maybe that could be it. I have no idea. But Lucas Brown's been in a number of discussions for the past year. I can't even remember the last time he fought. It's been a while. But perhaps he could be the next opponent for just Joseph Parker. It will be a title defense. But here's the plans that are being mapped out for Joseph Parker. It was laid out by Bob Arum. They're talking about Lucas Brown, a possible voluntary defense. And then if he gets past him, they're thinking about Brian Jennings. I mean, they're not bad opponents, they're not bad fighters, but they're not the most lucrative options on the table. This is prize fighting after all. So whether Parker just wants to make voluntary defenses, try to keep his undefeated record intact, but at the same time, Parker is not exactly a guy with that is exactly unbeatable. He's a very vulnerable fighter. He's been in some shaky bouts. He's had some questionable decisions go in his favor on 2 occasions, in my opinion. I picked him to beat Andrew Ruiz, and I was wrong. I was officially right, but I was wrong. Andrew Ruiz won that fight, but he didn't get the decision. It was one of the few times where I get a pick right, an official pick right, but I felt that I was wrong. Usually it's the other way around. I get a pick right unofficially, but the official result goes the other way. That happened to me in the Fury-Parker fight. I picked Fury. I felt I was right, but he didn't get the decision. So Parker, he's not exactly the most unbeatable heavyweight out there. From what I see, he's the weakest heavyweight champion out there. And it doesn't make sense that his team will rather bypass the unification with Joshua, considering it's the biggest fight out there for him, and he's willing to take risky fights against Lucas Browne and Bryant Jennings. I'm pretty sure I know why Bob Arum wants to make that fight. He co-promotes Joseph Parker, but he fully promotes Bryant Jennings. He sees a bigger opportunity where if he matches those 2 guys, say Jennings wins. He's a young American. Well, he's still kind of young, relatively young, early 30s. He's an American fighter. He's experienced. He's been in there with some big names. And if he bounces back and wins a title off Joseph Parker, Bob Arum could have a lot more business when it comes to an American heavyweight and Bryant Jennings. With Joseph Parker, no profile in America. That's why the fight with Wilder is not going to happen, because it's not a big fight. It's not enough money in that fight. That's why it's not happening. So Parker has a choice, but they're gonna be very hard at the negotiating table. They're not gonna take the first offer. They're not gonna jump if Eddie Hearn offers to fight. They're gonna want to be treated with respect, and they're gonna be a little hard-headed about it. The thing is, they have to consider it if they're going to be offered to fight next. I mean, if you're offered an Anthony Joshua fight and you're a heavyweight, are you really going to turn that down? Like, seriously, it's the biggest payday out there. And if you're called upon for services to be Anthony Joshua's next opponent, you best believe you're going to listen, you're going to go over the offer, and you're most likely going to take it. Because why wouldn't you? There's no other bigger money fight out there. And also, if you have a title, who would you rather fight? You're mandatory for much less money, and you could possibly lose, or fight Anthony Joshua, a vulnerable heavyweight who's not unbeatable, can be beat, but he's definitely a formidable fighter with a lot of firepower, physical talent, punching power, and he could knock you out. There's a great chance he could knock you out, beat you, but you still have a pretty good chance of beating him because he's vulnerable. He doesn't have the best chin in the world, doesn't have the best gas tank in the world, and he's not a finished product. So it's a risk worth taking if you're Joseph Parker, instead of taking a Lucas Browne fight, possibly lose for not even nowhere near the type of purse you get for Anthony Joshua, or fight Bryant Jennings and just pass your belt to an American heavyweight, which is one of the goals for Bob Arum, to make that fight in order to get an American heavyweight champion back on the scene, a different American heavyweight champion. So Parker has a lot to consider. He's and his team. They were acting like they didn't want the Anthony Joshua fight at all before the Joshua Takam fight. They were talking about different plans. They weren't keen on a unification, but now after watching Joshua struggle somewhat with Takam, now they're gonna weigh their options. But they're still playing hardball. They're still being hard-headed when it comes to the negotiations, and they know that Joshua's team are gonna target them first, since they feel the Wilder fight is bigger and it'll be a better setting at Wembley Stadium in the summer. So Joseph Parker, he's gonna be a wanted man for Joshua's next opponent, if of course Joshua doesn't have to make a WBA mandatory. it's up to Joseph Parker to take that fight. I mean, he's been exposed on 2 occasions. He ain't that good. He's never going to be elite from what I see. But he does have a puncher's chance against Joshua. He does got some good hands. And the style suits, that type of style, Joshua's style, suits Parker better compared to a Hughie Fury. Doesn't mean he'll exactly win, but he'll look a little better in that fight because of the styles. Joshua will be there in the pocket, trading shots. Maybe Joseph Parker can land a big shot in between. So Parker's team need to be talking some sense too. If they get the call to fight Anthony Joshua next, they should take it instead of risking their title for not really big title defenses, not big fights, risky fights against the likes of Lucas Brown and Brian Jennings. We'll see what Joseph Parker's do, what he does, but it's a no-brainer. You get the Joshua fight, you take it. But y'all let me know what y'all think. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.